The Shift is brought to you by SE Healthcare. Welcome to The Shift. I'm Dr. Andrea Coyle. Welcome back, Shifties, to the next episode of the Shift podcast. For the entire month of May, because it's Nurses Month, we have been recognizing many great nurses. In addition, our great partners, the Daisy Foundation, does it better than anyone on planet Earth by meaningfully recognizing nurses. And so what we decided to do this month was talk to Daisy honorees. And today we're going to do a true shift. And I'm going to ask my dear friend of more than 21 years, Jessica Pritchett, is going to interview me. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jessica. And thank you so much for doing this, Jessica. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely, Andrea. It is so good to see you again. That's right. It's been 21 years. I started as a new grad with you precepting me, which was fantastic in med-surg. And all throughout my career, you were always a little bit on the ancillary side of just supporting me along at the medical university. So in my career, I started in med-surg. I went to the medical ICU, spent about a critical decade there in critical care. And then transitioned into an infection control coordinator for a school system during COVID. But before I left the hospital system, I had a unique opportunity to sit on an executive steering committee with you as the chair. And it had been some time since I had seen you. It had been about 10 years, I think, since I had worked directly with you on a unit in some capacity. But you were the magnet director for our hospital at that time. So today, I thought about printing out this nomination and reading it for the shifties so they could hear a little bit about what you had done. But Andrea, my gosh, that would take the entire podcast because it is pages long on all that you accomplished in that year. So I cannot do that. But I wanted to highlight was one of the things that I wrote in this nomination. And so this was for the Daisy Nurse Leader Award, which you were selected for and you did win, probably close to 10 years ago. How long ago was it?
I think it's been about 10 years.
It's been some time. Okay. So one of the things that I highlighted in here that I would really like to talk about today was that you had a unique ability to put the right people on your team. And so the team, our steering committee, I think we were tasked with healthy work environment. That was what our goal and our mission was on the steering committee, to improve the workplace for nurses at our hospital. We were a very diverse group. I did not know anyone in our group. But despite that I didn't know anybody, you had put us together and we were cohesive, we were highly achieving, and we got a lot of stuff done. And that's something that I've seen in you. You empowered me as a nurse to bring out the best in me. And so I would love to hear your perspective. And if that's been a shift for you in your career, that you realized you couldn't do it on your own, that you had to get a team together, or if it was something that you've always been uniquely gifted in putting the right people together on a team. So I'd love to hear more about that from your leadership perspective.
That is a great question. And I think when you're a new leader, there is a little sense of control, and it's sometimes hard to give up and relinquish some of that power. And I think it all comes from creating meaningful connections, and meaningful connections are truly built on trust. So I have to trust the people on my team. And because I trust them, it's bi-directional or reciprocal, they trust me. And I think that's a secret sauce to building any successful team, is trust and meaningful connections. I think the other thing that you highlighted, which I love, is we were a very diverse committee, and that was very strategically selected because, let's just face it, in healthcare and in the world, it is so important to embrace diversity. And what I mean by that is everyone thinks differently. Everyone has a different perspective. We have some people that are really detail oriented and some people that are not. And some people see things way different than I do. And when we can truly intersect all those different approaches, all those different perceptions, I think the team is going to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things you did for me was that you really believed in me as a team member. And so you saw things that I was passionate about, and you didn't make me feel like an imposter. Like, you need to run with that. This is good work. This is big work. Go for it. Where I was like, are you sure? Are you ready? And you're like, yes. And you did. And you pushed me in that direction. And so I think sometimes some leaders, did you ever have that imposter syndrome of, I am in charge of a
Oh,
very large hospital system? Did you ever experience that?
the imposter syndrome?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think no matter where you are in your career, there's imposter syndrome, whether you're been a nurse for 6 months or 16 years. I think sometimes there's a little bit of self-doubt. Um,
Hmm.
I think one thing that your nomination did for me and the Daisy Foundation did for me in their medium of recognizing nurses in a meaningful way, it truly it negated the imposter syndrome, but it validated that my leadership and my leadership skills are powerful.
Hmm.
And it just really it was very validating.
Yeah. And that your work matters.
Right.
And taking the time to writing the nomination. I remember writing the nomination for you. And I remember just wanting so desperately for everyone to see what was happening behind closed doors. Sometimes you think there's nefarious things going on behind closed doors in these steering committees, but the work and the passion and the heart that you had to really improve the work environment for nurses. And so for me, even writing it was cathartic. It was like, I want people to know, I want them to know how much we care and how much we're trying to make this better for everybody. And so that, I think, for everybody, taking the time to write a nomination. I mean, if we're talking about Daisy, the month of May, because it's the month of nurses, is the whole month of May. You're right. No one does it better than Daisy. And when someone took the time to write it for my nomination, it was so meaningful as well. And so then doing that back for somebody else. So I think for
It,
people listening to take a moment and think about today who you could nominate, because it is so meaningful.
I think that's so important. I think Mark and Bonnie, who I know will listen to the podcast, and Deb and Tina and Melissa and everybody at the Daisy Foundation. I love that you said that. And I think it's important that I'm a Daisy honoree, you're a Daisy honoree. I've written Daisy nominations. And to your point, it releases, like writing down and expressing gratitude releases a healthy neurochemical called serotonin. And
Absolutely.
so there's evidence behind the Daisy Foundation, which is so powerful. And I like you, I just really encourage people to recognize the good in people. And then if you have a chance, write it down and write that nomination.
Hmm. Andrea, where did you shift to? Just remind me in your career, right after you were magnet director during this time at our hospital setting. So you might have shared this already, but where did you shift to after about this time frame with this nomination?
Okay, I was just getting ready to lead into that's a great question.
Okay,
After the nomination, that was before COVID, right?
it was right before.
It was right before
Mhm.
COVID, and times became so uncertain. And the professional excellence team that I led, we were actually furloughed.
Mm.
I'd never not had a job in my entire life, and I was like really coming unhinged. But I believe, my belief, my belief is that God gives you what you need when you need it.
Mhm.
And so I walked out the day after I got furloughed, and my neighbor said, "Hey, Miss Andrea, what are you doing? I just got this great opportunity in the New York City suburb. They're doing travel jobs for nurses because it was the first wave of the pandemic and it hit New York
Right.
City really hard." He said, "You should try and work for this company and do a travel assignment if you're furloughed." And I said, Thomas, his name's Thomas. I said, "I haven't touched a patient in many, many years." He said, "Doesn't matter. They're looking for directors, assistant directors, leadership roles." I literally went back to my house, applied, called this company. 2 days later, I was in an airplane and I went up there for 6 weeks, and it turned into 6 months
Oh, wow.
of an assignment at a large mental health facility. And so the
Mhm.
shift, back to your question, the shift was that's when I started to recognize gratitude and burnout and well-being. So I
Hmm.
came back, stepped back into my role. Things had changed. My office changed, the parking changed, the organization changed. We were still wearing masks, policy changed, change fatigue was everywhere. This other company reached out and said they had heard me on a podcast, and they said, would you be interested in developing content for our company? And that company is SE Healthcare. And I said, sure, I'd love to develop content. So I developed content for them. And then their CEO, about 6 months later, said, would you be interested in being the Chief Clinical and Innovation Officer for SE Healthcare? And that was a huge shift going from an academic medical center into industry. And it was not only was it a huge shift, but it was very different. The landscape was different. But at the end of the day, my passion, my assignment from my Almighty is to make a difference in the lives I touch. And so I believe in helping clinicians and non-clinicians in the healthcare space recognize what burnout looks like, sounds like, feels like in the environment is a great way to help them to get to well-being. And you noticed how I said that on purpose with purpose. There is
Hmm.
a difference between burnout and well-being. They do
Hmm.
not sit in the same bucket.
Yeah.
Burnout is a lagging indicator, and well-being, I believe, I'm sorry, burnout is a leading indicator, and well-being is a lagging indicator. So I'm just really passionate, and decreasing burnout and promoting well-being is something you can do by nominating someone for the Daisy Foundation. It
You,
just
I
feels
mean,
good.
it really, you're absolutely right. And I love that you talked about your vulnerability and saying, I haven't touched a patient in 20 years. I'm not sure if I can do that. Um, because I think that forced you into a change to see, wow, my hands can be in many different areas and I am capable because I've been given this, like you said, this is my God-given task. This is what my goal is to improve the lives. And I think being pushed into a different environment, COVID pushed me too. And I think it pushed all of us. I was in the COVID ICU and then I transitioned into a school setting, which was highly contentious to try to keep my kids in the classroom. And so I was the healthcare person trying to navigate that. Um, and for me, I realized how much I missed clinical care. And for a second thought, gosh, I think I might go back to grad school. And then no, I'm too old for that. I've got too much going on with the kids. And then, you know what? COVID made me see if I could handle that. Like I could do grad school at 40. If cauliflower can be pasta, I can be a grad student at 40. you know?
You're
So,
so right. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. And that's truly, and I think, we've discussed this, Jessica. That was really what made me start thinking about having the Shift podcast
mhm.
is we can shift so many different ways and so many different times in this great profession of nursing. And
Yes,
we
absolutely.
have to keep shifting, and that's what we do. We just keep
Yeah.
shifting.
Yep. It's exciting. My niece is just admitted for her freshman year and she's going to be applying for upper division nursing and just talking to her about all the options that are ahead of her and all the friends in different places. Like you can chat on my friend here, you can chat on my friend there, and just all the different places that she can go. It's a great profession.
Is
It
that
is.
Mandy's daughter?
No, it's not. It's my sister Caper. Yeah.
Okay.
We've got some funny names in our family. Caper, Hopper, these are our
Paper Hopper,
nicknames.
but we can shout out to him right now. So make
That's
sure you
right.
watch this
That's
podcast.
right. So it's my niece, Lindsay. Yeah, absolutely. I've sent her a couple of years. Absolutely. We're going to send this to Lindsay right now and wish her well.
That's awesome. So, Jessica, typically at the end of the Shift podcast, we give the shifties a couple takeaways. If you could just give one takeaway and then I'll give one takeaway, we'll call this episode a wrap.
Okay. Well, my takeaway would be about you, Andrea Coyle. And it's what I learned from you as a leader to, like you said, trust the people that you've selected to be on that team. And sometimes trusting people that you might not have chosen to be on the team, but trusting that they're capable and bringing out the best in them. Because if you surround yourself with good people, you're going to do great things. And our environment and our culture matters so much. And I know that you brought it out of me, and then that has in turn, I hope that I've done the same for others, that what you've done for me in my career.
Oh, you have. I'm getting choked up, girl. I'm getting choked up. So my takeaway is, gosh, you've motivated me and inspired me. So, the takeaway is, number one, always aim higher.
Yeah.
Aim higher. When you make an accomplishment, don't stop there. Like excellence has no endpoint. I say that all the time. And aim higher. So shifties, excellence has no endpoint. Always aim higher. And remember this, your shift makes a difference. So keep shifting. During the month of May, Nurses Month, as we like to call it, is a great time to recognize all the accomplishments of nurses, and no one does it better in a meaningful way than the Daisy Foundation. Did you know that the Daisy Award honorees are eligible for many benefits that never expire, including conference grants, reduced tuition, reduced certification fees, and a discounted subscription to SC Healthcare's Nurse Burnout Prevention Program? Visit daisyfoundation.org and search for honoree benefits to learn more and see the complete list. Enjoying the shift? Help us reach more nurse leaders by rating and reviewing us on your podcast app. It takes just a minute, but makes a big impact. Search for The Shift, tap those stars, and share what you love. Your feedback shapes our future episodes and helps others discover us. Remember, rate, review, and amplify The Shift today.